Okay, I'm going to start. She scripted her own kahani from being a college student who got her first break at Doordarshan to becoming one of India's most trusted names in reading between the lines. Her journey is proof that perseverance isn't just a virtue, it's the foundation of success. She carved her own path into print journalism at Hindustan Times, moved on to CNN News 18, became the face of I.I.M.U.N, and now gives you a vantage point at First Post. What makes her truly stand out is how she delivers global insights through a Bharatiya lens, one that vibes with both millennials and Gen Z alike. In a world flooded with fleeting news bites, she is the 21st century Indian woman cutting through the noise to bring you the news that matters. We're an organization that speaks about understanding the world from the Indian lens. If there is one person that I am thrilled and delighted could travel all the way from Delhi to come and talk to you about what a role model truly stands for and about the world from an Indian lens, it is none other, and I would request you to join me in welcoming none other than Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me here and for the wonderful reception. I'm so excited to talk to all of you.
So I was just talking to them about how you give us the news from the Indian lens. And now it's become so important for the world to understand the Indian lens. But before we get into all the serious conversation, you're talking to school children, and you're talking to school children out here and across the country. I want to understand, was Palki always the person who finished first in class, or was she a normal student like us who finished somewhere in the 30th, 40th rank?
40th rank. You've done very well for somebody who finished 40th. No, I was not always first. I think I was, even if I say so myself, a relatively decent kid academically. But I was also always very clear about what I enjoyed reading. So it may or may not be in the syllabus, but if I liked it, I'd read it. And that may not help with my marks, but I think it helped me.
So it's important to select the subjects that you like and then master them, and not necessarily be good at all the subjects. Is that the takeaway from this?
I think it's important to be curious. If something piques your curiosity, you explore. And you'll be able to form an opinion only when you've armed yourself with information. I mean, you cannot form an opinion about something that you should not ideally form an opinion. So I was always a voracious reader. And I followed what interested me.
Super. And the important part to note is that she was always a voracious reader. And therefore, when you're reading out news or when you're communicating news across the world, at that juncture, that does show from many of your colleagues and when we see your news. But India has this dubious distinction of ranking 159th out of 180 countries on the Press Freedom Index, if I'm not wrong. And you're in a vocation where people often are quick to say that this is a BJP narrative or a Congress narrative. How much of this is true?
You mean if the Press Freedom Index is telling
Correct.
the truth? I think the Press Freedom Index and other such reports are reflective of a selective Western lens. I remember last year or the year before that, we ranked below Pakistan, and we at some point ranked below Somalia or Afghanistan. I mean, that says a lot about that list. So they have their own reasons to come up with lists and to, geopolitics and power play happens not just through military, not just through economic means, but also through narrative building. And this is one of the many, many tools that the West uses. How should we see those lists? I'm not saying that we don't have issues. We have corporate ownership, we have censorship in some places, but we are a country of 1.4 billion people. We have 1.4 billion opinions, and it is going to be messy. And as we rise in stature as a country, we will come under more scrutiny. We should welcome that scrutiny. Where we are not doing something right, we should try to fix it. But where we know that this has been done with an ulterior motive, we should know what to discount.
Well, what you said is very important. You said what is with an ulterior motive is what we should discount. There is also another worldview saying why to validate Indians by a yardstick that Oscars set or international standards set. Do you think that, but then again, we are quick to always say that, this is the international accolade that ABC won. And, and then we celebrate that person, so to say. So aren't we as society also, and more so as journalists also sometimes, don't we show a lopsided view to people? Because when it comes to certain celebrations, it's these lists where we've done well, and then when it comes to certain lists, then it is, these need to be discarded. So do you think that there is, or is it just Western bias that one needs to be more careful about, and there are good lists that exist in the West as well?
I'm sure there are good lists, and any win should be celebrated, including an Oscar win. But is that the be-all and end-all of what is good cinema or good music? I do not agree with that. We've all I'm sure read the story about a man with a very old watch who goes to a pawn shop and says, "What will you give me for this?" And that guy says $50, and then he goes to a repair shop or a second-hand shop, and they say, "We'll give you $100," and then he goes to a museum, and he says, "I'll give you $500,000. So they probably are not equipped to appreciate what we have in terms of art. We have, recently Natya Shastra was included in the UNESCO list. It's a treatise that has always been there. It is for us to cherish and to celebrate and to tell the world about it. We have so much civilizational wealth. It's time we shared. So if any index, if any award is recognizing it, we should celebrate it. But if they're not, then it's not a reflection on us. It's a reflection on how much they understand.
But then how come some lists are better than the others? Then how does one ascertain, where India is not doing well, then we say that this list perhaps is not the best list. Where India is doing well, and when an Indian won an Oscar, then we celebrate that. So my question comes from the fact that certain elements of media hype up certain awards, and then when it comes to statistics such as these, that time I do completely concur that perhaps this list is not correct. But all that I'm trying to say is that then aren't we quick to wash away places where we've not done well, saying that, this is a Western bias?
But I started by saying that my case is not that everything is hunky-dory with us. We have our challenges. Every country has challenges.
But we're not 158.
Sorry?
But we're not 159 on the...
I don't think so.
Correct.
I don't think so. And the West that sits in judgment is also, I don't want to name names, but I have interviewed people and leaders, and they want to control what is asked, when it is asked in an interview, what happens to your press freedom. So, a lot of things
Correct.
don't come out, but yeah, I suppose there was a book that I read where a line stayed with me. It says, there are holes in dosas in every house.
There are holes in dosas in every house.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. And what you said about leaders and people that you've interviewed so many of them. We, at one point in time, when I was going through the statistics, we tallied, we had 32 heads of nations that we've got on the I.I.M.U.N platform. And then I saw her repository of interviews as I was studying and preparing for this. And then there was one name after the other, and I lost count of the number of heads of nations that you've interviewed. But from all the ones that you've interviewed, who has been your toughest thus far?
Toughest. I think every leader has or comes with his or her own challenges, but I would say the trickiest was Pervez Musharraf.
And why so?
Because he was unpredictable, offensive, defensive, and yet charming. And we had to record the interview in his house. And
did I get that right? Yet charming?
He knew how to be nice when he wanted to, and we were his guests. And yet I knew what was his history and what was his background, and I knew how to filter it. And it tested my preparation, it tested my presence of mind. I had to be alert and more than 100% into the conversation at every point, because I knew that the person sitting next to me is very smart, and I don't want to be looking at this tape 3 days later in my office and thinking, why didn't I say this?
So Pervez Musharraf was the toughest interview. And an Indian politician? Any Indian politician or any other luminary from India?
I haven't done that many
Many.
interviews with Indian politicians. For some reason or the other, because my work has taken me to foreign shows more often. So, yeah.
And your interviews are watched not just by people from India, but from across the world. I.I.M.U.N tries in its own small infinitesimal manner to go across the world and to be able to tell people about an Indian narrative. Why do you think it is important for the rest of the world to now start looking at things not from a CNN perspective or a BBC perspective, but more so also from an Indian perspective?
Because India is a power to reckon with. India is the world's largest democracy. We have the largest population. We are the talent headquarters of the world. We are a growing market. If you want to be relevant politically and economically in today's world, you have to find a way to engage with India and understand India's perspective.
So what would your message be then to the many hundreds and thousands of young students who want to go overseas and settle, saying, because they think that there are greener pastures out there? In the context of your last answer, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, go and make the best of what you get there. You're all our brand ambassadors. I keep referring to things I've read. So the UK has universities which have been popular for decades. And this study said that at any given point in time, more than 40 heads of state had at some point had an education in the UK. They will carry a certain impression, a certain memory, and tend to have a soft corner, right? So that is their soft power. So the Indian students who go abroad to study, to work, are our soft power. And I would not criticize that at all. We have so much talent. We can share it with the world, and we can show the world how talented our young people are.
But yet also stay very rooted in Indian culture and also in India, because at the end of the day, perhaps the biggest marketplace also economically, from an economic standpoint, yet remains India. So it would be very important for anybody who's even aspiring to study at a Harvard, Oxford, and then stay out there to be able to understand what India essentially is today.
Yes, you acquire skills, but you retain your sanskar. That's what you take from home.
Great. I think that summarizes it. Another thing that I want to touch upon is geopolitics. And because you are covering this, and since so very long, you have met and interacted with so many world leaders and politicians. There is a man who the world is yet grappling to understand, who has now taken the Oval Office. And when he sneezes, the world is yet catching a cold. And what do you make, therefore, of President Donald Trump? And how is he for India and young Indians in particular?
So yesterday, Trump completed 100 days in office, and our story said it's 100 days of chaos. That sums up the man in one word. What does it mean for India? See, Trump is a very transactional leader. He likes to believe that he's a deal maker. It may or may not be factually correct, but that's what he's told himself. He also has a big ego that needs to be fed all the time. We've seen him in office before, and we emerged largely unscathed from Trump 1.0. We are doing fairly well this time. We understood the gravity of the situation, and when I say we, I mean the government, although I'm not a spokesperson for them, but New Delhi engaged with Washington very early on in this administration. The Prime Minister himself went to meet, Minister Jaishankar has been meeting. We've seen high-profile visits. J.D. Vance was here last week. So there is engagement. We know how to play this game. The Americans are saying that one of the first countries with whom they will have a trade deal would be India. So there will be some give and take. But I think we are better placed than a lot of others. You know, smaller countries like Sri Lanka is facing the prospect of 44% tariffs. I mean, how will Sri Lanka, with its already shaky economy, be able to deal with that? So we are better placed. And since Trump has declared war on the whole world, he is also going to need some partners to work with. And his administration sees India as that partner. Whatever their motivations, we have to see what works for us and play it accordingly.
But in the context of young Indian students who want to study overseas and then work, people are worried about H-1B, people are worried whether the loans that we'll be taking now, will we ever be able to repay them back? Is it time to look away from the American dream and focus more on an Indian dream, or do you think that it's yet okay to, perhaps yet go there and there is yet scope and opportunity in places such as America, and in specific reference to America?
I think with Trump, and this is my personal opinion, it is important to focus on his actions more than his words. He says a lot of things. He contradicts himself all the time. So you have to be clear about what he's actually doing. Also, he's a politician. He does a lot of things, or he passes a lot of, there's been a barrage of executive orders. Not all of them are going to hold. They're being challenged in court every day. He knows they will be challenged and they will be struck down. But then he goes back to his electorate and says, look, I did this as I promised, but your Congress and your courts are not in support of this. So a lot of it is hype and surround sound. Yes, this is a period of flux and uncertainty, but I don't think that if you are really looking to get an American education, and if your papers are sorted, and if you're not going to go there and
illegally
do something illegal, then you should be fine.
Don't go the donkey route, go the normal route,
Yes.
is what she's saying.
And go study. You may want to be an activist, but that's fine. But focus on what you're there for, is my advice.
Interestingly, you touch upon a very important thing. Don't be an activist, go and study. Today, in grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, people are becoming more and more passionate about certain issues. We had Bhumi Pednekar today in the first half, and she was talking about how she recounted her experience as a 17-year-old, how she was a climate activist and things like that. Activism is great, but it does take away at certain points from core academia. Is a worldview that a lot of people have. Do you share that worldview?
I think it's important to follow the rules of the country where you come on a visa. That is the most, I think, practical advice that I can give you. When you and I travel for work or as tourists, we follow the rules.
Great.
When you've gone on a visa that allows you to do X, Y, Z things, then you should stick to those things. If you indulge in violence, whether at home or anywhere else, in the name of activism, then you will face the law. Maybe what you'll face is harsher than what a local would. That is the reality of our world. Within that framework, if you can espouse a cause and work towards it, why not?
If you believe in a cause passionately, but within the guidelines of a country, and the guidelines of a country sometimes are fast changing, especially when it comes to their dealing with nations such as India. India's foreign policy, and I will touch upon that in the next question, but India's foreign policy has also gone through a lot of shift. We've gone through a non-aligned policy all the way to now taking stances on different issues. How do you see the new foreign policy that we've taken affecting students, or do you think that that's not going to make a big difference to somebody who's studying in school or college now? Because now we're taking positions on issues.
See, non-alignment was a policy of a completely different era.
Sure.
And India as a nation state had just gotten independence. Our economy was battered. Our military was not even a shade of what it is today. What we were was an old civilization, and we had a moral force, right? And we built on that. So we said that we stand for peace, and we do not want to be part of camp politics and so on, because those were the cards that we had then. Today, we are one of the fastest growing large economies. We are a very solid military. We are a soft power. We are a hard power. We are a space power. So we can be more assertive in making our choices. And at the same time, we refuse to be boxed into formal structures like alliances. We believe in multilateral engagements, and we believe in multi-alignment, right? So that's what India's policy is today. And that is a reflection of India as a country that is sure of its place in the world. I think the students from India who go out to various colleges and universities across the world should take that confidence with them, that they come from a country whose voice matters. They come from a country whose voice matters, and it's mattering more and more as
as years pass. However, how much ever our voice matters on international forums, and of course you've done the rounds much more, such as the United Nations. India seems to yet not find a place at the high table of the United Nations Security Council. It's reflective of a bygone power structure and a bygone era. I only wish in 2011, when we started I.I.M.U.N, we called it Model United Nations. Till 2015, till late former president corrected me, saying, Rishabh, don't do this and do so and so. We yet called it Model UN. Today, there's Model UN all across the country. Any school or college that you go to, you will see Model UN. I feel bad because when eventually having gone to the United Nations and seen how the United Nations functions and the vested interests with which the United Nations as a body then finally passes a decision, even the condemnation of the Pahalgam attack had to be watered down because of China and Pakistan. Do you think it's high time for a nation such as India to look beyond the UN and, of course, engage actively with the UN, but at the same point in time, do you think that the next generation of Indians, rather than doing Model UN, which of course we are part to blame, should focus also on solving issues of the world, but from an Indian lens?
First of all, let me say that what you've started is fantastic, and it was not a mistake. I think with the kind of network that you've built and the kind of efforts that you've made, with this strength, you can show the actual United Nations what a model United Nations should be. So kudos to you for doing that.
No, thank you. But the reason why I mentioned this, is today the name Model UN has become synonymous. If we called it Movement to United Nations in the first edition itself, every school would have a movement to United Nations. So it would be ABC School MUN, which is Movement to United Nations, which has become today a Model UN. It has a Lok Sabha, it has things, etc. But that's the humble submission and the acceptance that we could have done things differently. But then again, in retrospect, things can always be done differently. But sorry, you were saying.
So I think India definitely, if any country deserves a place in the UNSC, it is India as a permanent member. Why does India not have that place? It's because of politics. We know that there are vested interests, as you said, and they would not let India, namely China, to enter. But again, that is a reflection on the UN and not on us. This is an organization that is in dire need of reform. We know that. And not just the United Nations, all its bodies. I mean, we're looking at the WTO. We did a story recently on what is the relevance of the World Trade Organization at a time when Donald Trump comes and breaks all rules and does whatever he wants to do. And now countries can go and apply and appeal to the WTO. It'll take years for them to resolve this issue. Even that will not be binding. You have the international courts. You have all sorts of... Do the powers care? You have something called the G7, which was supposed to be a group of 7 top economies of the world. It has Italy. It is not one of the 7 top economies. We are among the 7 top. We are not part of the G7. We are an observer. So this is a framework created by the West to suit Western interests. We should be mindful of that. Should we stop engaging with them? No. We have to be, if possible, we should be in every room and part of every conversation and try to build on that. So we are part of the SCO, we are part of the Quad, we are part of the BRICS. None of these groupings or the United Nations, none of them is perfect. But you don't get out of it in a huff and say, this is not working for me. You try to make it work for you. That is diplomacy.
That is diplomacy, and till it's diplomacy, it's great. But one of the things that sometimes I think about and we discuss internally with our advisory board is that why do we send troops to the United Nations peacekeeping missions? At the end of the day, we're risking Indian lives on foreign missions which have very little to do with the Indian context, but and the explanation that's given sometimes is that is one humanity, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, Indians have a responsibility and so on and so forth. But the UN PKF, as you would know very well, they have a pistol and they have a shield. They are of no use. They're of use when it comes to keeping peace, but not in terms of making peace. And therefore, the number of casualties that we face when it comes to the UN PKF, why do we contribute, according to you, to all of these global missions?
I think our approach to this is based on two things. We try to balance national interest with international responsibility. Helping restore peace in the world is part of our international responsibility. Some other countries don't fulfill theirs, does not mean that we don't fulfill ours. That is one. Second, it is a myth to think that if some conflict is happening in some part of the world, it does not, I'll tell you, 2 years back, the Sudan war broke out. That conflict is still on. And as part of our research, we were told that, and why just research? I mean, there was an announcement from the government that they'd launched an operation to bring back Indians. And there were thousands of Indians. And someone in the team said that, what are so many Indians doing in the Sudan, right? We have people everywhere. So we have interests everywhere. Even one Indian should be enough to get us involved. To your point of how well-equipped we are, that is something that we need to work on. We should equip our soldiers and our peacekeepers better when we send them to conflict zones which are clearly dangerous. So yes, we should, but should we not send peacekeepers? I don't think so. I think it also builds our stature as a force in the world, and yeah, I think we are only setting an example for the rest of the world that while you make war, we call up leaders and say, this is not the era of war, and we contribute to establishing peace.
This is what you said again, that we contribute to establishing peace. I really like how this is a message that is being sent out to young people and to people just generally, on television, in media, etc. But honestly, on the high table of diplomacy, India, of course, is a growing power. There is growing influence that we exert. Sometimes do you think that the narrative becomes too much when we say things such as India will bring peace to Russia and Ukraine? Or do you think that, because I've seen those jingoistic headlines sometimes saying, on news channels saying, so we have intervened and now we are going to solve a global crisis. Is that true? Or is just TRP?
You said it, it's jingoism. We should not indulge in jingoism. But do we not have a say in the conflict? I think it's a choice that we make. It's a choice that India makes on how far it wants to get involved in something. It is also a fact that there are very few leaders in the world today who can pick up the phone and talk to President Putin and say, do not indulge in war, and then a few months later go to Ukraine, meet the Ukrainian leader, talk about why children should not become fodder in this war. How many people, you saw the French president go to Moscow in the run-up to the war, and he was given that long table treatment with Putin sitting on one side and Macron sitting on the other. So there is clear resistance to that conversation. India is in a very, very good spot there. We can engage and intervene, but can you force somebody to stop a war? No. Even the United States, Donald Trump said, I will end this war on day one in office. It's been 100 days, the war is not ending. They don't even have a ceasefire that holds. So no, we cannot stop anybody's wars. But can we be a voice that matters? Definitely, and to that extent, India is very much there. Jingoism is a problem. It makes us look like fools.
And because you spoke about jingoism, the fine line between patriotism and nationalism, where do you stand? Is there a line between the two?
Yes.
What is it? What is it to be nationalistic? What is it to be a patriot, according to you?
When you're a patriot, you say, a patriot is somebody who loves their country.
Right.
A nationalist, the classic definition is somebody who thinks that their country is superior to others. We tend to now use both the words interchangeably, and that is fine. I mean, it's a free world. Language is changing all the time. You want to call yourself a patriot, a nationalist, both. That's fine. I think that for me, that also means that, again, you celebrate what is good. You take pride in who you are and what you represent. but you're not blind to your challenges. It is very important to not be blind to the challenges that we have as a country, as a society, as an economy. We are not perfect, nobody is perfect. A society, a country is like a living organism. And it has to be healthy, and you have to work towards it. It doesn't happen on its own. So we have to have honest debate, we have to have honest conversations. We should take criticism only from those whom we take advice from.
But do we have honest conversations in India, especially in media? Do you think there is space left?
Yes. Yes. We have 400 news channels. Not all of them are saying the same things. A lot of them are. And I know that there is this tendency to
generalize, perhaps.
To generalize and to think of the media as a monolith. It is not. The media is a beast of many parts, and there are a lot of people who don't agree with each other, and very vehemently so, and that is okay. The media has its own challenges. Ownership is one of them. I've always said that if you want the media to work for you, pay for it. You'll pay 400 rupees for a Starbucks coffee, but you'll not pay 4 rupees for news subscription. Then how do you expect the news to work for you? Then it'll work for the advertiser, or it'll work for some political vested interest. And that is a reality that we must accept. In the digital age, people believe that news should be a global or common good, and it should be free.
Sure.
But it is not free.
How many of you, just by a show of hands, would pay for a free news, for a news channel which is giving you unbiased news? How many of you would pay and subscribe on YouTube for something like this?
This is being recorded.
No, this is great. This is great. This is fantastic. This is what this is new age, young India, and they grapple with this problem the most, and that's the reason why I ask you this, is when I talk to young people in different parts of the country, and when we talk at that juncture, they say that, Rishabh, any news channel that you see, and this is true, any news channel that you see, major political parties are boycotting those news channels or boycotting the anchor, thereby not allowing for discourse to take place. So in mainstream media, there are very few places where you get both sides or both narratives. One would look at social media then perhaps, but then has come the age of podcasters and the age of influencers who are also at the end of the day narrating a particular line. For every 5 guests that come from a particular ideology, there is none from the other, or at best one. So the narrative building that has happened, and therefore young people, for them to be able to ascertain facts from fiction. You saw the number of hands that just went up suddenly saying, look, we'll pay for an unbiased. Because how many of you feel that mostly news is biased? And that's the reason why. So, Palki, how do we solve this conundrum?
I think we'll have to on both sides work. I understand the challenges that we face. But as the audience, I want you to also ask yourself this question very honestly. What do you reward? Do you reward honest journalism? Would you watch a story that talks about climate change, that talks about poverty, that talks about unsustainable debt? Or are you rewarding viral clickbait? Ask yourselves this. What is it that you watch? What is it that you consume? That is where the ad money is going. That is where the revenue is going. And those are the businesses that will remain relevant in the long term. So, and as for those in the media, we've had this conversation, I think, ad nauseum. We are working towards it. I can tell you, First Post does not, that's why we don't have political representatives. And that is not to say that all of them are not making sense. A lot of them are making some very good points. But we don't want to get into that. We don't want to get into that tutu meme. So we will take the inputs that we want to take, but we will tell the story, and then we leave it to the audience to decide what to make of it. We have an opinion. We are not afraid to express it, but we value yours as well, and we leave you that space to be informed and to come up with your own understanding of an issue.
No, what you said, that we are also part of the problem. That is a given. I think what we consume is also important, depending upon the virality of this conversation, because it's no clickbait worthy information that has been given, but yet substantive information that has been given. And one can measure the metrics as we put this up on YouTube. But the point being, I get the point that you're making, but at the same point in time, isn't it important for journalists and also for those in media to also say that, yes, there is a fine line between asking a question and giving an opinion. Growing up, when I used to consume media,
Where?
CNN, IBN, say, for example, or... No, I remember the shows that used to come, Devil's Advocate and so on and so forth earlier. And in all of these shows, there were hard-hitting questions. Those hard-hitting questions were posed, then the answer was expected, and then one moved on to the next question in most cases. Today, it has become a podcast. It has become a conversation between the journalist sometimes and the person whom they are interviewing, where the journalist is also giving their opinion either during or after. My thing is that, has the definition of journalism now changed?
No.
So then why is this the case in majority of the cases?
So,
or is my algorithm giving me only this much?
Maybe, and I was part of CNN IBN when you said you watched all of this, and that was
know.
also the era where we used to have the same conversation then, because there were channels that were showing Saab Bichu, Swarg Ki Sidi, Ganesh ji having milk, and we thought this is the pits. Correct. I mean, how much worse can you be? I worked in Doordarshan, where we were given specific things to say, and my parents' generation believed that that was the best era of news because nobody was making a noise. A very decent anchor would come and relay the news, but that was basically a government handout. Okay. It's a state channel, right? But we did not think about it like that. So I think narrative building, misinformation, fake news has always existed. Technology has turbocharged it. Today, you're getting it in real time, and algorithms are only giving you what they think you want to consume. So the same old things are happening. It's just that you are boxed in an echo chamber, and you think that this is the whole world. This is not the whole world. There's a lot of other conversation happening, but the technology and the apps that you rely on are probably not giving you access to those other echo chambers. That is what we need to break out of. And today, if I may add, we are not just giving news. In the days of Doordarshan and newspapers, we used to, editor would come and decide, today there's been a handshake between the leaders of India and Kenya. This is the top headline. Today, if I run that as the top story, you will not watch it. You will want to know my opinion. You will want to know how does it matter to you. Not just that, you will be very happy to tell me in real time. You should see my YouTube comments.
Section.
Oh my God, they are a world of their own. All sorts of things happen. People are talking to each other. Correct. So I think we've made people who watch Vantage every day have become friends on that YouTube comment section. They ask each other, where have you been? I've not seen you for 3 days. The other person says, I was unwell. Oh, get well soon. So that has got nothing to do with it.
And you're giving commentary on Donald Trump there.
Or something very serious, something is happening, but people are talking to each other, fighting with each other. So news consumption has changed. Today, we are building communities. We are engaging with our audience. The audience is talking to us. The audience is talking to each other. We are asking people not just to watch our news. We are saying share, subscribe, like, comment. So that's what has changed. Our methods of dissemination have changed, your methods of consumption have changed, and so if we feel that it's different, the basics of storytelling are the same, the power play is the same, people in power always want to tell their side of the story, people who are underprivileged always struggle to get their point out, there is still corruption, there is still violence, all of those things are very much there.
But giving both sides of the story is also important. And before giving their opinions on national television and elsewhere as well, giving both sides, getting somebody from the opposite side also to give a perspective should also be important, shouldn't it? It should.
Not always. No. Pahalgam attack has happened. Do you think we should get a representative from TRF to explain why this attack had to happen?
That is national security. But I'm saying
but how
within
do you
the
decide
country.
That? Within the country, there's a rape that has happened. Do you want to give platform to the rapist?
But to people who are giving an opposite perspective, not to the rapists, but to people who are not necessarily...
We choose where we should give both sides of the story and where we shouldn't.
Correct. Of course, my favorite philosopher says, Friedrich Nietzsche says, morality is an interpretation of phenomenon. But we can't leave society to that basis. But at the same point in time, I agree that there has to be somebody who decides at the end of the day. But political voices, voices of activism, should at least be given space. And that's also something that is missing from our newsrooms today. Do you accept that?
No, I think they're given space, but they're being scolded and they go back to those channels and to get scolded and to nod their heads. You know, that's the choice that they're all making, and I wonder why people are watching that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I suppose.
But at least, perhaps then, as I move on to the next part of it, which is the second last part of it, which is in terms of there is something to learn from everyone. I personally believe at least that there is some amount of good in every human being, and that one must learn from everyone. I don't know whether you agree to that statement.
I'm sure there's some amount of good in everyone, and I'm sure that you can learn, but I'm not a big fan of putting those people on the same pedestal and saying,
of course,
okay, right? And there's that equivalence is a problem. And if young people, and I don't know about others, a lot of young students watch what we do, a lot of them.
Correct.
And when I travel, when I'm out for a dinner, people walk up to me and say, I prepared for XYZ interview after watching this, I prepared for my GP. I know what is the cohort that I'm reaching. And I want to give them stories that inform, inspire, that help them become global citizens. I don't want to waste their time by giving a platform to somebody who I don't think is adding value. So if you're going to give, 1 hour of your day to me to watch, I want to make that hour worth your time and worth your while. And I don't want you to waste it.
No, absolutely. And hopefully people who do model you and also walk up to you and tell you saying that we've used your insights in our debate preparation. I hope that does happen at some point, at least.
Yes.
But coming to the question then, who is Palki today is a role model for a lot of young people. But who has been your role model? Have you had one role model in your life or multiple role models?
So I'll take it from your last statement, that I have learned from people over the years, and I have learned from people in my personal and professional journey.
Sure.
For me, my role models are very personal. I was raised by 2 very strong women.
Right.
My grandmother, who lived in a very patriarchal setup in Rajasthan, no education, lost her husband at the age of 18, had a son who she raised by herself, and remained a very strong presence in my life until she was alive. And my mother, who believed in the and these are everyday heroes, right? For me, they were, and my mom, who believed in education, who gave herself an education. She was studying until I was in high school. And she instilled in us those values. So we've learned things over the years after leaving home, but that grounding that they gave. So my heroes, my role models, they say, not all heroes wear capes. They don't wear capes, but they have been instrumental in a very solid foundation for me and my brother. And I look up to them. And when I'm confused, when I feel that I cannot see what's coming next, then I tell myself that these were women who had nothing. And they remained positive, and they learned, and they taught, and they grew. So yes, if you keep at it, you'll find your path.
Now, because you mentioned your family, I must ask you also then, how should young people choose a role model?
They should, see, it's very easy in this age of influencers to be influenced by somebody who looks great, who's
Correct.
seemingly very successful. I think it's important to pick role models wisely and to follow people who walk the talk. It's, words come cheap.
Correct.
You and I can sit here and I can say great things about XYZ stuff.
Sure.
Am I actually doing it in my life? So I think go for authenticity, go for someone who's actually done what they're talking about.
So don't measure them by their words, but measure them by their actions outside of their work of life. Am I correct in understanding
outside of Instagram also.
Outside. No, and that's the whole point of the series, that in a world full of real models, we need role models. So I'm glad that you touched upon that. But there's a small rapid fire that I want to ask you, at the end of which we promise a hamper. But what's the first word that comes to your mind when I say the following words? When I say Xi Jinping.
I want to say panda, but that won't be great, no? Right?
You want to say? You should say it.
No, we say panda diplomacy for China. That's fine. No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Yeah.
Right. When I say Donald Trump.
Chaos.
Chaos. Vladimir Putin.
Strength.
China or Pakistan? India's better friend.
Neither.
First post.
Credibility.
Prime Minister Modi.
Master communicator.
Prime Minister Nehru.
Rose.
He always carried one. Yes. When I say the following words, which are Gen Z lingo, because a lot of Gen Z watches your show, so I'm sure you already know their lingo.
I hope so.
When I say aura points.
Aura points. I don't know that one. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yes, please, please.
Bulu, what do aura points mean? Just by yes, that girl out there, yes.
Personality points.
Personality points. So would it be correct to say aura points into infinite for Palki? Yeah, great.
You've answered it for me. I'm raising kids too, so I'll ask them.
When I say the word Riz, what comes to your mind? These are easy ones.
Authenticity.
Authenticity. Correct. When I say this outfit is giving.
This outfit is giving. I'm hazarding a guess. I don't know. Is it a good outfit?
It's a good outfit, yes.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yes. When I say the following words now, when I say youth, what comes to mind?
Future leaders.
Bharat.
Civilization.
Books.
Knowledge.
OTT.
Time waste.
Instagram. Instagram.
Reels.
And the last one determines the size of the hamper. When I say India's international movement to United Nations or I.I.M.U.N, what's the first thought that comes to your mind?
Youth power.
Oh, lovely. Fantastic. Thank you. With your permission, can I take a few questions from them?
Yes. Have I earned the hamper? Yes.
But as we conclude this, something that I must say. As Mumbai becomes closer to Melbourne and Morocco, across the world, India is playing a larger role. There are very few voices that speak about the world from an Indian lens, and we need more voices. But if there is one voice that all of you who do Model UN and who do movements to United Nations conferences should listen to, it is the person who is sitting in front of us. And I only hope the next time you go to a coffee shop, people come up to you and say that in my debate competition that we were participating in, yours was the research that helped me. Your speech or your point of view helped me prepare for my research, for my debate. So the reason why I mentioned this is because of what she said. And I just want, you can lower your hands. I'm sorry, we won't be able to take more questions. I apologize. But I just want to make this very clear for you as well and for everyone who's watching. She said this, that it's okay if we're not breaking news. It's okay if we report the news a little late. I have spoken on stage and off stage to many journalists, and everybody is always emphasized on the importance of getting the news out quickly. If we have a journalist who says as much on stage and also does her reportage in the same manner, I think we should definitely subscribe to what she's doing. And I only do hope that you continue to grow strength to strength. Thank you very much for championing India on the global stage. Thank you. It's a small token of appreciation. The big hamper is in the car. And then we request for one picture with you and the audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your kind words, for this fantastic conversation. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. And I hope you find role models in every walk of life, including in journalism. I take it as a personal challenge, and we will make our profession better. We will make sure that more of you want to watch news and believe in what you see. We'll work towards it. That's a promise.
Sure. And that is the difference between a real model and a role model. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Palki Sharma. Thank you.